I wanted to do something special today and count down the top 10 soap opera storylines from the year 1980. And there's a lot of storylines that happened that year. There was a lot of soap operas back then, so it was hard narrowing it down to 10. Some gems got left out of the top 10, like James Stenbeck appearing on As the World Turns for the first time. His villainous self, as he found out that he and Barbara had a child together. It broke up Barbara and Tom.
What? Barbara.
You shouldn't have followed me.
Listen, please, I'm not going to let you go. Barbara, don't ever run away from me again. I'll never hurt you again. Ever.
But as good as that story was, it just did not crack the top 10. Another storyline from Edge of Night. Draper Scott was falsely accused of a murder, and on his way to prison in a train, the train crashed with he and many believed to be dead, but really he had classic soap opera amnesia and had to go on living as someone else for that year. But before we get to the actual top 10 storylines from 1980, I have started a Patreon where you soap opera fans can come watch classic soap operas with me. And I started with One Life to Live in 1992. Leanne keeping the truth from him about the babies.
I would do the same for him, Vicky.
Not exactly love.
Kevin has been so kind to me. He's been decent, and he's treated me with respect. Nobody's ever done that. Kevin just met me, and he loved me. It's never been like that before.
But do you love him? So please support this channel by getting the Patreon. If you love me and love soaps, you'll love the Patreon. Alright, let's start this top 10 storylines from 1980, starting with number 10. Luke and Laura were a popular couple, of course, from the 80s. In fact, they helped bring General Hospital to number 1 in the ratings. Now, I feel some kind of way about the way that couple started, because any couple that starts with sexual assault doesn't really work for me. So a lot of their story early on in 1980 hasn't aged well because of the way the writers decided to go about that story back then. But there's no denying that Luke and Laura were popular. They did have a chemistry, and the show eventually did capitalize on that when they went on the run.
It's going to take care of Scotty and his father and everybody, including you and me. But we can't stay here. We'll be dead. Help me do what I have to do, Laura.
Still don't understand.
Now listen. I took photographs. I was in Frank Smith's office. I took photographs of a black book he had. It details all the organization's workings. It's got names and figures and numbers. It's my passport to freedom. As long as they...
Sticking together.
No, it's sticking together. No.
They went on the run because Frank Smith he was the big mob man, kind of terrorizing Port Charles. Luke had worked for him for a while, but they wanted to decode Frank Smith's black book. I think this story encapsulated why General Hospital was the hit it was in the 80s. They loved their action-adventure storylines, and Luke and Laura would always be big at leading those storylines. And in the end, they would decode the black book and be the super couple to take down Frank Smith. Coming up at number 9 comes from All My Children, and that is the one they call Erica Kane. Erica Kane had a rough ending to 1979 when she was hiding from her husband Tom, who wanted to get pregnant and have a family with her.
Well, you know the truth.
I want a baby as much as you do.
Then why are you taking these?
She was hiding from him the fact that she was actually on birth control, taking birth control pills, which of course put a big problem into their marriage. Not only because he wanted to have a kid, but because she was lying to him that she was taking birth control and wouldn't be able to have a kid on birth control. In 1980, Erica was in her business bag starting a disco, but when a competitor, the Steam Pit, started, it would put an end to her disco being popular. But what really made Erica's story compelling in 1980 was dealing with her daddy issues. Erica Kane always had a lot of men in her life, and the show did a good job of depicting why. In fact, Erica went to LA, Hollywood, trying to find her father and basically become a hit in Hollywood. But that ended up a failure, and so she came back to Pine Valley, and when she came back, she saw that her husband Tom had gotten close to Brooke, and Erica vowed to win Tom back from Brooke.
I know you.
That is just my point. You don't. I mean, you think you do, but you don't. At least not the way I am now. You keep thinking of me the way I used to be.
I don't think you've changed one bit.
Because you won't take the time to see it. But I'm different. I really am.
She promised Tom that she would turn over a new leaf. But in typical Erica fashion, the allure of fame once again came up in her life, causing her relationship with Tom to have trouble. She met a person in cosmetics named Brandon Kingsley, and Brandon offered her the top modeling job for his cosmetics. And once again, Erica started lying to Tom about why she was taking all these trips to New York, because she didn't think Tom would want her to be a model. Once again, putting fame before her marriage to Tom.
Darling, listen, do you think that you could possibly call them back and ask them to come tomorrow night instead?
Tomorrow night? You gotta be kidding.
No, I'm not kidding. Please?
Erica, our anniversary is today. It's not tomorrow.
But of course, Tom would have eventually find out this deception and finally, once and for all, divorce Erica and turn to Brooke. But I thought the triangle between Brooke, Erica, Tom was entertaining, but really adding layers to Erica's character and her daddy issues is what made this storyline work. Coming up at number 8, it comes from One Life to Live, and the perverted double life of Dr. Ivan Kipling. For the year 1980, I thought this storyline was quite boundary pushing for daytime TV, when they started to show that there was more to Dr. Ivan Kipling than met the eye. You see, at the time, Ivan was married to Faith, but he tended to have these obsessions with younger women. First it was the younger Cindy, and then it was Tina, who he thought was just so feminine. But the more the show dived deep into Ivan, we found out that he had some sick, depraved needs and started turning to hookers for those needs. You see, he had this kink, and for daytime at the time, I'm still surprised they went there, the kink of asphyxiation. Yes, he loved to choke his women, and he would do that to his hookers.
Was Karen one of them, Ivan? Is that how she knew? Answer me, Ivan. Did you pay Karen Wallach to undress for you? Of course you did. There's no other way she could have known. You disgust me.
Karen, who was an ex-hooker, would be the character to tell Faith that her husband was a sick man. And when Faith had to learn that Ivan was into hookers. Because of this, Ivan wanted revenge on Karen. Ivan told another hooker to get a hold of Karen and act like she was in distress so that Karen could come to her rescue.
Who is this? Claudette Rio. Remember me?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you. Why are you calling me?
Karen, listen to me. I'm desperate. I need help bad. I'm calling you because I know how you helped Kat. I'm in terrible trouble, Karen. You're the only hope I've got.
But Karen came face to face with Ivan. She almost got away, but Ivan shoved her down some stairs. He left in a panic, hoping she was dead, but returned to find that she had a pulse. She wanted to strangle her, but the police arrived before Ivan could finish the job. The story would continue with Karen needing neurosurgery, and of course, who did Karen's once husband Larry think was the best man for the job? Well, Dr. Ivan Kipling. But Ed was certain that someone lured Karen into the building and wanted to find out why. Ivan was hoping to do immediate surgery and finish the job, but when Faith learned of Karen's accident, she told Ed that Ivan hates Karen, and Faith doesn't think that Ivan should be the one to operate on Karen. But in the operating room, Ivan can't go through with killing Karen. He sticks to his orders as a doctor, as a surgeon, and does save her life. It helps that Faith also hated Karen at this time because she was trying to get with Karen's once husband, Larry. So when Faith and Ivan eventually talk about his perverted ways and his perverted needs, they actually work things out in the end. But the character of Ivan, very intriguing, especially for the year 1980. I do think One Life to Live pushed the boundaries with this story, and good for them. Coming up at number 7, Comes from Another World, and a story that would take place over the entire year of 1980. I think Another World at this time, the ratings were not so hot, but they still had classic soap opera storytelling where one event leads to another, which leads to another, which leads to another, and basically your entire year has this story that has been driven from different elements the entire year. The story I'm talking about is Janice, Mac, Rachel, and Mitch. Janice had been married to Mac, but was slowly poisoning him, trying to kill him, inherit his money, and around town nobody suspected that this would be how Janice really is, that she would be a murderer, but Rachel had her suspicion. Of course, Mac's daughter Iris just thought Rachel was obsessed with her father Mac and didn't believe Rachel. But there was another person involved in this story, and that is Mitch, who Janice thought was helping her, and he was at first helping Janice rid of Mac, but Mitch kind of fell for Rachel, and while Rachel was trying to save Mac from Janice, Mitch was convinced that he and Janice were doing the wrong thing to Mac and wanted to stop Janice too. Rachel came upon Mitch and basically used her charm to get Mitch's help. The two would end up sleeping together, however, which would be an element to the story later in the year. Mac's condition had deteriorated, and Mitch lied to Janice, promising to carry out the plan so that they two can be together when Mac dies. But it was all a lie. After Rachel seduced Mitch and they slept together, Mitch led her to Mac. Mitch had vowed to help Rachel in saving Mac's life. While Mitch distracted Janice, Rachel slipped in the house. Mitch had convinced Janice to stop poisoning Mac, but when Janice spotted Rachel trying to rescue Mac, she went crazy and grabbed a knife, accused Mitch of betraying her, and stabbed him.
Where are we going, Rachel?
Don't talk, Mac. Just concentrate on walking. Are you alright?
Yeah.
Mitch! Rachel! Oh, please, Mac, don't pass out. Just keep going.
Janice. Drop it. Come Come on, drop it. Drop it.
It was Rachel all along, wasn't it? You betrayed me for Rachel.
Put the knife down, Janice.
Meg, can you hear me? You've got to get away from her.
No, Matt, I won't now. No. Don't run away. If you do, I'll kill Matt.
But Janice would be killed by her own knife in a struggle with Rachel. But that would not be the end of this triangle between Mac, Rachel, and Mitch in the year 1980, because of course Rachel ended up pregnant and suspected that Mitch was likely the father. And even though Rachel and Mac had gotten back together after she helped save his life with Janice, when Mitch found out that Rachel was pregnant, he started wondering if he could be the father. And Rachel and her mother were trying to keep the truth from Mitch. But eventually Mitch just couldn't do it anymore. He had a confrontation with Rachel in the barn. Rachel had a gun at the time during this argument, and the gun accidentally went off. She thought she killed Mitch, but Mitch really wasn't dead. But there was a burglar poking around, a prowler, and the prowler and Mitch ended up in a fight. Mitch killed the prowler, the barn started on fire, everybody thought Mitch died in the fire, and it looked like Rachel killed Mitch.
Rachel, how good is your memory about the night Mitch was shot?
I think about it all the time.
Rachel would go on trial for that murder, but of course Mitch was alive in soap opera fashion. Similar to the Edge of Night story that also happened this year, I just think this had a lot more leading up to this story to be the better story of the two. Rachel would go away for the murder. She would be sentenced to prison.
We find the defendant, Rachel Corey, guilty of murder in the second degree.
By the end of the year, Mac had suspicions that Mitch was alive, but Rachel ended the year 1980 in prison. Of course, in 1981, though, Mitch would be alive, so Rachel would be out of prison because she didn't kill anybody. Let's look at the story at number 6. We go back to General Hospital, which will have a lot of storylines in the top 10 because they were at the top of the ratings for a reason. At number 6 is the relationship between Tracy Quartermaine and her father, Edward Quartermaine. But, the Quartermaines always had scheming going on, especially when it came to money. Tracy wanted to be the person that would get all the money if her father ever died in the will. She was in the will and wanted to stay that way, but Edward was having second thoughts because of the way Tracy was living her life. Alan had just had a child, and even though at first it didn't seem the child was his, which will be another storyline in this top 10, once it came out that it was Alan's kid, Edward had the decision that he was going to make AJ the sole heir in his will. Tracy was trying to put a stop to that, And that's when we got the classic scene of Edward seeming to have a heart attack.
I don't want your family gatherings. I don't want you around me for holidays. And most of all, I don't want to even have to pretend that I still have a daughter.
Daddy, what's the matter? What is it?
My medication, Tracy. Give me my medication. Oh.
Daddy, you're having a heart attack. You know, Daddy, it was really very careless of you to leave your apartment without taking your medication with you.
Tracy, I need my medication now.
That would help, wouldn't it?
Tracy.
Then you could live long enough to sign the will. Huh, Daddy? Cutting me off from the entire Quartermaine fortune. Well, now, gee. That's something I'm going to have to think about, isn't it? All you have to do, Daddy, is promise me you're not going to sign that will. That's all. Just one little promise.
Please.
Oh, Daddy, it's a beautiful night. It's such a beautiful night.
Pleading to his daughter for the medication that he needed, but of course Tracy wanted to stay on the will, and so she did not help her father with the pills. Yes, Tracy was hoping her own father would die before signing the will, the new will taking her out of the will. Edward was lifeless, but it was all a ploy from Edward.
Daddy.
Don't call me that, Tracy. I'm no longer your father.
Daddy, let's never do that to each other again, okay? Daddy, let's not play any tricks like that on each other ever again.
Is that what we were doing, Tracy?
Oh, you bet. You were trying to get me to think you were really having a heart attack, and I was trying to get you to think that I was going to let you die.
You were very convincing.
You know you weren't, not for a minute. I knew you were faking. Now I want you to call Zelda back and tell her not to come, okay, Daddy?
Don't call me that. I am not your father. Tonight, I'm going to sign the new will.
It was a test to prove Tracy's loyalty, and Tracy failed big time. So he signed the new will, and Tracy was out of it. By the end of the year, though, Edward did give Tracy some money, which could only be spent on the senator race that Tracy's man Mitch was running for senator. So Tracy left town with Mitch so that, she could have the $2 million. But the Quartermaines prove in this story, and again in a future story in this top 10, why they were kind of the glue to the General Hospital storylines. They were always so entertaining. Number 5 comes from One Life to Live Again, with Marco Dane pretending to be his brother Mario almost the entire year. Mario had wound up dead either at the end of 1979 or the beginning of 1980. But everybody thought it was Marco that was murdered. But it really turned out to be Mario, and now Marco was playing his twin brother, having to act like a doctor like his twin brother, and also falling in love with Edwina like his twin brother. Edwina and Mario had been in love. But while trying to be his brother, Marco starts losing his mind. He starts actually believing that he is Mario. And his BFF, Karen, has to try and help him through this. Karen tries to put him into a sanitarium because he's starting to go crazy. Because Karen doesn't want the truth to come out either. Because she and Marco were always in some shit. Because of Marco kind of going crazy and losing his mind and he's starting to be a little volatile, Ed starts to catch on that Marco might be Mario. And of course, in good old soap opera fashion, it all comes to a head on the day that is supposed to be Mario and Edwina's wedding. By this point, Marco knows he's Marco again, but he is arrested.
You are Mario Corelli, aren't you? Yes. Then this warrant is for you. I have orders to place you under arrest and to take you into custody.
On what charge?
Violation of Article 2412 of the Criminal Code of this state.
What's that?
Practicing medicine without a license.
I mean, you might have liked him, but you wouldn't have fallen in love with him.
Him who?
But that's beside the point anyhow. He's dead, and the only choice is me, Cook.
Mario, I don't know what you're talking about.
Marco. I'm Marco.
And of course, everyone is upset with both Marco and Karen for doing this whole ploy the entire year. But it is a very entertaining storyline, and Marco and Karen make for quite a duo. At number 4, we are looking at a Young and the Restless storyline, and that is a cult storyline when both Paul and Nikki end up in the New World cult. Nikki has been going through it. She had found herself in a prostitution ring and had gotten out looking for a better life, and although she was married at this time to Greg, she still found more solace in the New World cult.
Everyone is special.
Special. Special, Nikki. You're very special to us.
I met these really neat people, Paul. They took me home with them, and that's why I'm staying now.
Paul was trying to fool around with a character named Rebecca, and she was in the New World cult trying to bring him inside of it as well. Sameko was the leader of the cult, and the cult was just basically trying to take advantage of young people and say they're gonna basically give them a better life, but really it was a money scheme the whole time. Other soaps had tried a cult storyline around the same time. I know The Doctors had one a year earlier, but I think this one really was entertaining and really done well, because you have Peggy, who is working for the newspaper trying to basically go undercover inside the cult. And Sameko wants another member of the cult, Matthew, to eliminate Peggy, which he seems to do, but then really doesn't. Paul starts to realize how much Rebecca is brainwashed and doesn't want anything to do with the cult, but he and Greg want to save Nikki from the cult. Paul then tries to get in the cult's good graces again, get into Sameko's good graces, and does so. He gets Sameko to admit that Peggy was killed, but it turns out Matthew could not go through with the murder, and Paul gets the officers to take down Sameko and the cult. But it was a story that showed that Paul and Nikki were always good friends, but also that the show can kind of go outside of what you would think of Young and the Restless, especially in this time. I thought the cult storyline for Young and the Restless is very different from what we usually get from the show, but they did a good job with it. Bill Bell could write, that's for sure. At number 3, yes, once again, General Hospital. Monica and Rick had had an affair, and Monica ended up pregnant with AJ. Of course, when Alan found out about the affair, he was not a happy camper. And it was even worse when he thought that AJ was Rick's kid. Alan wanted revenge. He was a very angry man that wanted them both dead. He tried to set up a roof collapse to kill both Monica and Rick.
Yay! My dear brother Alan. Alan, I want us just for today to keep up a good front of loving siblings for Mother and Daddy, okay?
Tracy.
And you know what? For the good name of Quartermaine.
Tracy, look.
Especially since Mother and Daddy are a little angry at me right now. They said I had too much champagne. I don't think I did.
No, I don't think you have either.
But of course, after setting it up, he's having second thoughts. He wants to save them, but he ends up almost killed too.
Alan.
Oh, I thought you were never going to get up here.
Neither did I.
I think it's going to be quite a remarkable room. What's the surprise you had in store for us?
That'll wait. Look, come on downstairs. We've got guests that are leaving, and the caterer wants to speak to you, Monica. You've been up here such a long time, everybody's asking about you.
Well, we've been up here, Alan, because you asked us to wait up here for you.
Yes, I know that, but come downstairs now with me, will you, please? Rick! Monica!
All three people are hurt. Rick, Monica, and Alan. But luckily for Alan, he didn't go through with the murder because he would later learn that the kid, AJ, was actually his. And thus, this was just the beginning in a long line of Alan and Monica having some falling outs over the years. But this was yet another entertaining Quartermaine storyline. Number 2 storyline comes from As the World Turns. Another boundary-pushing storyline at times.
Ian, don't you think we should take it easy tonight and catch our breath?
Be sorry you missed it. It's very romantic.
When Ian is dating the much younger woman, Dee, and while they're dating, Ian ends up dying during sex with Dee, having a heart attack. And of course, Dee is pretty much having PTSD after that incident. But the storyline really focuses on the dastardly John Dixon, who at this time was villainous. John starts to manipulate her into a relationship. She knows she needed someone after what happened to Ian, and John seems to be the man that wants to work through her issues with her. But John becomes very possessive during this storyline, kind of isolating Dee away from everyone else. John had alienated Dee even from her father, David Stewart. When Dee basically had no one left, Dee married John. But Dee was still in love with her ex, Brad, and that would cause an issue for all of them. But the biggest issue came when Dee started taking sleeping pills. Still haunted by the way Ian died during sex, thinking it was her fault, the sleeping pills came in handy. One night, while she was sleeping, a man crawled into bed, and they made love. Dee was thinking that man was Brad, but was later horrified when it was John. Her father found Dee crying the next morning, and she said she never wanted to make love to John. She didn't think it was John. She thought it was Brad. And they end up pressing charges against marital rape. Very complex storyline about rape. Who was really in the wrong? Dee was on sleeping pills, thought she was sleeping with Brad. John didn't know that, though. John thought she really wanted to make love to him. So, complicated. And, you know, kind of soap opera at its best, really making you think. Number 1 comes from The Guiding Light. And just arguably the best villain in soap opera history, Roger Thorpe. At the end of 1979, a lot of the town thought Roger was dead. He had terrorized the town in the past. At one point, he was married to Holly. And coming into 1980, he wanted to see Holly again because he and Holly also had a daughter, Chrissy, who eventually would go by Blake. But when Roger showed up again in 1980, he had to go by disguises because he was under a lot of fire from the town. One of those disguises ended up being a clown, and despite being in clown makeup, the character of Rita did recognize Roger. we get some great scenes though as Roger as a clown, being his dastardly self, going into the House of Mirrors, following Rita. He eventually does kidnap Rita, keeps her hostage at a cabin. Rita's pregnant at the time with Ed's baby. Eventually a fire breaks out at the cabin and Rita loses the baby because of smoke inhalation. During this reign of terror, Renee is afraid of Roger when she sees Roger. She ends up running away from Roger and ends up falling down the stairs to her death. But the real climax, of course, is when Roger finally does find out where Holly is. Holly and their daughter is in Santo Domingo.
Roger! Christina, run! Run, honey, run! Go down to the elevator!
One shout and you're dead. Thank God he's alive. Come on! Screaming you're dead.
I know you mean it. You killed Renee.
Shut up! I didn't kill her. She tried to run from me. She fell over the rail.
She's dead because of you, like Rita and Ed's baby.
You listen to me. I didn't kill Renee, but I promise you, if they try to take me, they'll have to kill you first.
And Ed, always being Holly's protector, helps out Holly in that situation. In the end, Roger ends up being shot by Ed and falling to his death, or so we would think, for a very long time on that show. But it's always going to be hard for me to not put Roger at the top of a list if I keep doing this. I mean, Roger doesn't return for many years. But he is just a very complex villain with a lot of emotions. He can be very human, but as you see from this video, he can be very dastardly too. And over the top with clown disguises and all. But Roger is just a captivating villain to watch in soap opera history.